Hello everyone, this is Robert with Team Copperhead, and I've got Copperhead up on its head right now with its butt all up in the air. And there's a couple reasons for this video. First, this was a great view to showcase our new sponsors and also kind of give you an idea of the new aesthetics that we're rocking this year. Secondly, this is a nice low effort, quick video for me to make during an otherwise pretty hectic build schedule, so I'm very thankful for that. And lastly, I would like to show you a nifty little feature that we added for the 2020 season, which is this new automated pre-charge circuit. Ooh. So you might be wondering, what is a pre-charge circuit and why do I care? Well, I do have this painfully long and in-depth video on this whole pre-charge circuit. It is ultimately the same one that we did last year. We're just doing something a little bit different to actually control it. But very simply, a pre-charge circuit is a way to slow down that sudden inrush of current when the robot is turned on. You see, we have this big battery and a lot of complex electronics, and as soon as you hit that power switch, all of that power is going to flow into the electronics and charge them up. And that sudden inrush of current can actually damage these switches, and those are something you really don't want to fail. At the bottom of the robot here, we've got two switches, and they're these Waiachi MS2 switches. We've got one here for drive and one over here for the weapon system. And they're pretty simple. It's just basically a couple plates inside, and when you turn the switch one way, it turns it off, and when you turn it the other way, it turns it on. And so what we've done is on top of the switches that are down here, we installed this other assembly on top that not only guides the hex key into the switches, which are at the bottom of the robot, but it also activates the pre-charge circuit like so. And that's as simple as this. So all I have to do is turn this on for drive, and if I move it to the other side and insert the key, now that turns it on for weapon. So the pre-charge circuit is already activated. For the previous version of Copperhead, we had this switch sitting on the outside of the robot, right there in that position, and you would press the switch, that would do the pre-charge, and then you'd still have to go in with the hex key in any one of these holes and still turn it on. Now that was fine, but it meant that you needed two hands, and sometimes having two hands on the robot isn't a great idea. Maybe you're holding radio, things like that. It was also exposed on the outside of the robot, so we lost a few switches just from, you know, this thing bouncing around inside the arena. The switches are cheap, they're easy to replace, but we did have a couple instances where these got stuck on, so then the pre-charge circuit was always active, and that actually does activate the drive and a couple other things, which is undesirable. The other benefit that this gives us is this little assembly that sits on top of the switches acts as a guide for the hex key, because the switch is all the way down here inside the robot, and sometimes you'd have to go fishing around to try and find it at the bottom, and you might inadvertently hit something else. So this prevents you from hitting anything else. Make sure that you always get that switch activated, and you always activate the pre-charge. There's no way to forget that you did this. Sometimes with the switch, we would forget to press it, and then you end up having that arc, and that is a bad day. So let's take a closer look at what this circuit looks like. So here is the new automatic assembly. It's basically this 3D printed part that has a couple of switches in it, and it sits directly on top of the Waiachi switches. I only have one installed here because, well, we don't have any other spares, and you can get a closer look at this. Now this is just PLA because, well, quite frankly, hopefully no one's going to be hitting us from inside our own robot. That'd be a pretty crazy season. But yeah, this is really all there is to it. If we look at it from the back side, we've got the lugs to the switch. We've got the two screws that hold the micro switches in place. There's one on each side. So we get one for the drive and one for the weapon respectively. And if we look on the bottom here, you can see that the micro switch just sits right inside that channel. So when we feed the hex into there, it just simply activates the little lever on the micro switch. It's that simple. For any builders that want to replicate this, I'll give you a little hint because I went through a lot of prototypes to try and get this just right. This is something that you need to work every single time without fail, and it can't have any cons to it. One of the big issues that I had was that when you insert the key into this slot, the slot had to be just loose enough to where this could wiggle around, not too tight, so that you have some tolerances there. But the other issue I had was that these micro switches have a little bit of a dead space, right? So when you press them like that, they don't click, and they kind of click right about there. So there's a fair amount of movement. Now, if you just keep moving these micro switches closer and closer to where you get a better press out of it, you're going to run into the lever arm instead, and you're going to basically hit that, and then you make this a little bit bigger, and then you won't ever trigger that. So what I found to do is just add a little shim in between the actual lever and the plunger thing, so that this is automatically preloaded, if you will, about like that, so that when the hex key touches it, it just instantly clicks in. So there's just a very fine line between where it clicks and where it doesn't, and that was accomplished just by using a little bit of a shim in between the two right inside. So there you go, that's all there is to it. Just a simple little feature that will make our lives a little bit easier this season. Speaking of making our lives a little bit easier, let's give a little shout out to our sponsors. We've got eGauge Systems, the company that I work for, Rocky Mountain Water Jet and Laser. I've been using them pretty much since the beginning. They've done a lot of my cutting, water jet and laser. And then of course, up top, we've got Avid CNC, who has been a huge help this year, and I absolutely do love my Avid CNC router. So that is all I have for this video. Be on the lookout for the full Copperhead overview for the new 2020 season. I'll be posting that very soon, so check back on my channel. As always, it's a good idea to check out my Facebook page for any updates, as well as the Copperhead Facebook page. Be sure to visit our sponsors, check out our other videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the 2020 season of BattleBots.